a, thank you. I was just getting ready to do that. We're a small business administration, and our service area is the Eastern Shore and Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. We provide free technical assistance to people all across the state of Maryland with things like business plans or creating cash flow projections, to identifying consultants like Ms. Peel, or doing these free trainings like you're enjoying today. And then we also do lending, small business lending, micro lending in the amounts of $5,000 to $150,000. If you are interested in any of that, please contact me. I will also put our website links in the chat for everybody to review. You will receive a copy of the PowerPoint if you would like, and we are recording this session. So if you do, and we love questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, raise your hand. I would like to introduce Ms. Lindsay Peel, who is the fabulous owner of Kingdom Vision Consulting. She also has an MBA, and she is a Howard University alumna as well. And we are lucky enough to count her as one of our colleagues and volunteers here. She has been such a great supporter of Maryland Capital Enterprises and small business lending, not just here in Baltimore, but across the state. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Donna. I always appreciate you. I'm gonna have to take you on the road with me. I have already started to share my screen. If I can just get a thumbs up if you're able to see it. Awesome. Perfect. And if you see me look from one side to the next side, it's only because I want to see your face too, but I'm also using a double monitor. But good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to be here once again. I am an avid fan of MCE and the amazing services that they provide, from providing access to capital to business owners who may or may not be able to get traditional capital through banking institutions, but also the technical assistance. A lot of people don't always know that CDFIs offer technical assistance in addition to capital. The technical assistance is what teaches you how to maintain that capital once you're able to take advantage of that. So thank you, Donna. Thank you, Nick, for also being here. Thank you to, the executive director, the entire team at MCE. As Donna introduced, my name is Lindsay Peel. I am the founder and principal consultant here at Kingdom Vision Consulting. Ultimately, we are a financial services firm that specializes in CEO financial planning for specifically entrepreneurs of color. And we do that by focusing on 5 key areas of finance known as CLASS, in which we will get into today, okay? Our primary mission is to really educate, empower, and encourage entrepreneurs of color to employ financial strategies that will ultimately lead to generational wealth. And I know generational wealth is a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it now, but before you hit that point of being able to create that for your family, you have to first take care of yourself. And you also have to learn how to financially take care of your business, okay? Our ultimate goal is to really break the poverty cycle and to shrink the racial wealth gap. My background is in finance from the banking space. So I spent almost 7 years in retail banking, starting as a part-time teller and transitioning later on in my career. I was a branch manager and business development officer for a few locations in Baltimore. So I love the work that I do, but most importantly, I love seeing my clients create an impact in their business, in their families, as well as the communities that they overall serve. A couple of our objectives for today, we are going to discuss a little bit about your personal finances and your business and how they are almost like a married entities where they connect. We're going to discuss those elements of CLASS and their impact on your business. We're going to talk a little bit about sources of capital, and then you guys are going to get an opportunity to be able to ask me some of those fun questions. One reason why I love this class is because we bring a very different spin to the basic business finances. Typically, when you hear that framework, you think about automatically accounting, you think about record keeping, bookkeeping, your accounting, your taxes, you automatically think about systems that you use. But one thing that makes us very unique is that we are charged with the task of making you think about the basics of business finances from a very different lens, from that lens as a CEO. And when you are that CEO, it is very, very important for you to think about how you contribute to your business. Are you personally, financially a liability to your business, or are you personally, financially an asset to your business? But also, how are we managing our business finances? A lot of us are good at what we do, right? That's why we in business, right? If you bake, obviously you are great at what you do, right? If you are a service provider, you are great at providing that service. But a lot of times we are missing the connection between doing what we're great at that creates the revenue in the business and actually properly managing the revenues in that business. So what I like to dig into when it comes to even just thinking about a financial picture in general, right? You as that CEO having to wear multiple hats, right? But most importantly, thinking about how do you show up in your business? Take a second, just think about it, right? Just self-examine for a moment here with me. When you take the opportunity to sit and focus on who you are as that CEO, what comes to mind? Do you feel well? Do you feel financially whole? Do you feel like you add value to your business financially, outside of the task that you do, outside of what it is that you produce? Do you personally, financially add value to your business? And a big way to really start thinking about that is, first of all, understanding your why, right? Why are you even in business? Is this business something that you are building and growing for sustainability purposes for your family? Are you looking to ultimately retire from this space? Or is this particular business a hobby? Because there are different reasons for different things, but also based on that reason, based on that mental connection, that's how you operate, right? A company that I used to work for, they had a mantra that says, beliefs, how you think, drives your behaviors, what it is that you do. And those behaviors drive the results, the goals, the things that we are aiming towards. Before you can even learn how to budget, learn how to actually address credit issues, you got to think about, who are you and how do you show up in your business and how do you show up in your finances? And I have my clients to start by taking that self-assessment, thinking about your own personal financial journey. Think about where you've come from, right? Think about the things that you saw, whether it was in your household, in your communities next to you, or even in your adult life now, right? What has that financial experience been like for you? Address it. A lot of times we try to sweep things under the rug. We kind of just skip over the topic, or we don't necessarily invest the time in understanding the root issues. But it's then when you start to address those root issues, those seeds that were previously planted at some point, that you realize what you have been doing that might have watered those seeds to produce whatever harvest it is that we have been producing, right? And then understanding whether or not you're even confident in your ability to continuously financially evolve. I tell clients all the time, as entrepreneurs, you should be a lifelong learner. And one of your favorite subjects that we need to learn how to embrace is our finances, is our money. You cannot become wealthy without having a focus on your finances specifically, right? Being able to understand your financial belief system, being able to identify the framework of your money mindset, that is going to really help you be able to start taking care of the business much, much, much more efficiently financially. A call to action that I'm going to give each of you today is to go home. If you aren't home, take a moment when you're not working on the business to think about who you are, to think about how you show up. Start writing those things down. Think about even your negative thoughts, your fears around finances, so that you can start to address those things at the root. And then take a financial self-assessment of you personally, right? And a part of doing that is creating what we call a PFS, a personal financial statement. So being able to identify the details of all of your assets and all of your liabilities, so that you can, one, see that bottom number, which will ultimately be your net worth, but also two, so that you see how you show up as the leader of that business. Because a lot of times how we move within our personal finances will be reflected in how we move in our business finances. But we can't get better if we don't understand what we are, if we don't know that starting point, okay? And this is for you. This is for you to gain a better understanding of where you are, but also how do we create the steps, the goals, those SMART goals to go from where we are now to where we desire to be. And that end point can be however far out you consider yourself, right? So where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? What do you want to be in 5 years, right? But in order to figure out how to get there, you have to know where you are now, mentally, but also physically within your finances. A quote that I like to read is, entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. Are you willing to make those sacrifices? Are we willing to have those tough financial conversations? Are we willing to address those things, those conversations, those topics that just really make us uncomfortable? Are we willing to do that to get the results that we need to position us to ultimately live the life that I know I dream of? You know, I dream of financial freedom. I dream of time freedom. I dream of location freedom. But in order to get there, you have to do some things intentionally. You have to make some very intentional sacrifices sometimes to get where you want to be. And today's sacrifice, today and beyond, is being able to navigate those tough conversations when it comes to money. Just a quick raise of hands. How many people kind of run away or stray away from financial conversations? And that's okay. That is okay, right? The biggest piece is that we're able to acknowledge it. That's called self-awareness, right? That's being able to understand yourself and to understand how you move. But after today, we're going to get a little bit more comfortable in having those conversations. It's about really being able to put one foot in front of the other. The first element of class that we are going to dissect is credit worthiness, right? So thinking about, what does that even mean to be credit worthy? And why is that relevant when it comes to my business finances? First and foremost, we're going to just think about, what can credit do? What is credit? Credit is really the ability to tap into what we call OPM, other people's money. Being able to get a lender to say yes to that term loan, to that line of credit, even to that credit card, for us to build these enterprises, for us to fulfill our dreams. But in order to get them to say yes, we have to do what? We kind of have to prove ourselves. And that's through the use of credit. Being able to understand what those 5 C's are, being able to understand what an underwriter will be considering when it's time to fill out that business loan application. Thinking about your character. What does your credit history look like? And it's okay if we have not had the best history. It is fine. It is fine. You're going to hear me tell you a lot. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because now we're talking about and thinking about forward progress. We have to let go of where we were in the past, because if our past continues to hold us hostage, we're going to be unable to effectively and efficiently move forward. But we have to at least recognize it and understand it. A big part of understanding where you are personally in credit, you have to look at that credit report. Not just your number that you might get through your app with the lender that you may have, but actually digesting the report, understanding what's up there, and understanding how certain things impact the next. Understanding your capacity, being able to digest your debt to income ratio, and to understand how that plays a part in your ability to be that effective CEO. Understanding what collateral you may have to leverage, honestly. Collateral are your assets that you have equity in, or that you may potentially own them outright, and you're able to utilize them also for secured lending avenues. Understanding your capital, right? Understanding the conditions, those factors around you. We all have experienced COVID. Technically, we're not out of it yet, technically. But there are so many external factors that play a role in our business's success that we have to be very intentional about the things that we can control, like our personal finances, like our personal credit, for example. Yes, there are a number of alternative lenders, CDFIs included, that will lend to you in your business that are not just solely focused on your personal credit. However, great rule of thumb as a CEO, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing that personal credit. Even if you're building business credit, even if you need to tap into an alternative source for the sake of getting the approval, you still want to work on those things simultaneously. If you own more than 25% of that business, your traditional lender and even your alternative lender, they're going to be looking at those personal finances. They're going to have a conversation. Regardless of what their ultimate decision will be, there is going to be a conversation about that. And you want to be the first person who understands what's happening in your world. You don't want that lender to pull your credit report, and that's when you find out that you have some late payments or that something might have went into collections. You want to know in advance so that you can also prepare yourself for those conversations, but also prepare yourself for growth. Understanding your credit utilization, being able to pay down, especially that revolving debt, to reduce debt. The golden rule is staying under 30%. That may not always be realistic from 1 month to the next month if we have some major expenses. However, it's important to understand that if we do go over that 30%, it is going to impact our credit. Understanding how collection items sitting on our credit report impact the decisions that those underwriters will be making. Address them now. Judgments, liens, anything that we have on our credit report that we have strayed away from, we have to go back and do the work. I like to tell everyone to pull your credit report at minimum once a year, twice a year if you really want to stay on top of it. Monthly, if you are really, really determined to be in control of your finances. Whatever it is, address it now, because it could hinder you months later, years later down the line, when you're looking to accomplish some of your goals. I've also provided a website down here at the bottom, annualcreditreport.com. They will give you your free credit report once a year. And during COVID, they was giving them away once a week. Pull your credit report and you can gain access to all three through Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And it's important to, one, check for inaccuracies, but also to understand your credit's performance. I promise you, it will make a difference as you are maneuvering in business. Another huge part of being credit worthy as a business owner is being able to establish business credit. Business credit and its accessibility is just as important in your business because, one, at some point, you're going to get tired of bootstrapping. At some point, you're going to get tired of exhausting your personal funds, using your personal credit. You want the business to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. A big part of building business credit is making sure that your business profile is legit. Have you filed with your state? Are you in good standing? Let me say that. Are we in good standing? Do we have a real physical address? Do we have a website? Do we have an email address? Do we look good on paper? Can they Google your business and find the real business? Do you understand your industry codes? Are you in a restricted industry? Do you know that or not? A lot of times we don't talk about it, but there are some industries that automatically get an extra set of eyes from lenders and underwriters just because they're within a specific industry. You want to know that you do not want to operate blind when it comes to managing your business's finances, but also understanding what makes up those business financial elements. Do you have an EIN number? They're free. With the IRS, you need that. It's an identifier for your business. As you're building business credit, your goal is to strengthen that EIN number through what? One-time payments, lower utilizations, so that at some point, your business can obtain credit on its own through your EIN number. Does it happen automatically overnight? No, but it's very possible. We have to be very intentional about doing the work. Do you have a business bank account? Do we actually separate our personal finances from business finances with that business bank account? Will our accountant or bookkeeper go through your business bank account statements and see a number of personal transactions? It is so important to be very intentional. Even when you feel like you're not making enough money, you just want to do things the right way. During PPP time, there were a lot of business clients who couldn't gain access to their funding because they didn't have a business bank account, let alone some of them didn't even have a business banking relationship, period. PayPal, it's great. It helps, but you want that business banking relationship. Cash App and Venmo, we want to graduate from those. I know a lot of times they're simpler, right? And a lot of times they're less expensive. Honestly, let's cut to the chase. It's less expensive. That's why most people opt for those methods. But they're not as legit. And when it comes to building business credit, they're not going to be accepting a Cash App payment history or a Venmo statement as proof of funds for that business. They're going to be looking for bank statements, official records. Do you know your paydex score? Your paydex score is how we gauge your business credit. While your personal credit can go from anywhere from 300, 350 up to 800, 850, your paydex is a little different. It's a 0 to 100 system. That 80 or above being good business credit. Do we even know that? Have we started connecting those dots? And if not, that is okay. That is why we're getting this information. I always recommend this website called NAV. It'll give you your business paydex score, but it also gives you alerts on your personal credit as well. It's extremely useful. And if we want to be effective and efficient CEOs in these businesses, we have to do our homework. We have to start connecting the dots between what we need and what we have. You have Experian business credit. Of course, you have Dun & Bradstreet. We hope that everyone has a DUNS number. And if you don't, you can go and get one today also for free. They play a huge role in helping your business be able to borrow without a personal guarantor at some point. It is super, super, super important. While your DUNS number is free, it does cost you to actually pull those reports to keep up with your business credit. But it's an investment. Don't look at it as just another thing to pay for. It is an investment It is keeping you alert and aware of what's happening at all times within your business credit profile. Have you started building vendor account relationships? If you have vendors, distributors that you work with in your business to supply you with your goods, will they allow you to have a trade line, creating net 30 accounts? That also helps you to build your business credit so that when we're ready to move into a new location, or if we're ready to do a new product launch, guess what? We now have those relationships that we've established, that business credit history that we were intentionally working on, and that business banking relationship that can enable us to gain access to the funding to do so. Don't just work on one or the other. You want to work on both your personal credit and business credit simultaneously. Another element that we don't talk about enough when it comes to managing your business finances is making sure that your business is also helping you as that CEO, but also as your employees, preparing you guys for retirement. I just recently was reading some statistics on women in retirement, and they says that women are 80% more likely to be impoverished during retirement years. That's because we're not putting enough money aside for the future. I know a lot of us in business, listen, I'm a fellow entrepreneur, so I get it. We focus heavily on how do we stay in business next week, next month, next year. We don't spend a lot of time thinking about how can I make sure that I am creating long-term wealth in my business, but also personally through my business. If some of you may still work with an employer, or if you have at some point, a lot of times they offered you a 401k. Some of them might have been contributing to that. When you start your business as an entrepreneur, you don't just have that as a luxury. That's something that you actively have to work towards. We have to create enough revenue to where we have enough, right, to create and implement these other systems. But when we think about even maintaining employees, because we also know that it's competitive out there, we have to offer some type of benefit that will keep them. But before we even can do that for our employees, you got to start doing it for yourself first. As an entrepreneur, do you have an IRA? SEP, Roth, traditional, simple IRA, there are so many to know. There are also solo 401ks. You can roll over your old 401ks, TSPs, 403bs into these IRAs, but you want to have them in place. You absolutely want to have them in place. And even if you feel like you're not financially ready, you still want to have these conversations because they're super, super, super important. Remember, we're thinking as CEOs now. We're graduating from just thinking about that business owner who slaves in your business. A lot of us may start that way, but we have to think about scalability. It's hard for you to scale if your hands are only in the business. We have to understand the difference between working in the business and working on the business, but also understanding the difference between working on the business and working above the business. That should be a big goal, is creating so many amazing systems in your business where it can run without you so that you can focus on everything else. Whether it's starting another business entity, right? Whether it's scaling development in your current entity. But these are a part of the conversations that we have to continue to have in order to get there. Now, we have a part 2 coming up in August in which we will talk about the record keeping, right? We will talk about how to become more effective CEOs financially. But these are the tough conversations that we don't like to have. We don't want to think about retirement, but we need to. Because we don't want to be forced at 85 and 90 years old. We don't want to be forced, even at 75, to have to go and find a part-time job because our fixed income isn't enough, because we didn't save for retirement. Retirement may be far off for a lot of you, but you want to have these conversations now, because the biggest thing is time, the time that you have to put away and for this money to start working for you. Another element of class that is so important as a CEO is understanding the importance of protecting your assets through proper insurance protection, but also estate planning. Do you have the proper business insurance? At the bare minimum, do you have liability? But if you do other things in business, it's important to know that you are properly covered, that you are insured, that your employees are insured, that if something happens and you run into an issue with the client, sure, we don't want to talk about it and we don't want it to happen. But if that happened and you got sued, do you have proper insurances in place that could take care of that for you? Or will that one lawsuit take you out of business? These are important conversations, tough conversations that we have to have. Being able to understand what are financial priorities. Proper personal insurance coverage. Understanding how you can utilize personal insurance to make sure that you are financially covered. Do you have enough that can cover your debt? Do you have enough that can, at a bare minimum, bury you or cremate you, whatever your choice may be? No, we don't want to think about that, but it's inevitable at some point. GoFundMes are not cool. We don't want to have a fish fry to raise enough money to take care of our loved ones. And you don't want them to have to do that for you, especially as a CEO. You invest so much time, energy, and money in building these businesses that are honestly taken away from your families for these businesses, that you don't want to leave your family in a situation where they're mourning you, but they're also mourning the financial circumstances that they have been left with. It is up to us as these business leaders to make these important financial decisions now, so that we can protect our families, protect those that we love, but also protect us while we're still here. Are we having estate planning conversations? Especially as a CEO, right? Have you thought about succession planning in your business? What's going to happen to that entity when you're gone? Do you want to sell? Do you want to pass it down to your family? What do you want to do? And when you make those determinations, as you're thinking about those things, you want to make sure that we're including them on paper in our legal documentation. In your operating agreement, you want it to be spelled out clearly. When it comes to your personal finances, right? Do you have a will in place? Do you have trust funds in place? Power of attorney documents? Having these things in place will help direct your assets once you're not here. You don't want the state to have to decide for you, but you also don't want your family members trying to figure out what you wanted to happen. We got to do it now. We have to have those tough conversations to address those things, because having these conversations, creating goals, understanding what we need to do, helps us to move differently in our personal and our business finances. If we know that we have to make X to be able to establish this trust fund, if we have to have X amount of revenue to create that retirement plan for our employees, then we operate differently. We make different sacrifices. We make different intentional choices to help us get there. But if we're not having these conversations to even think about and understand where we're trying to go or where we need to be trying to go, then it's no way we're going to do the work to get there. I'm sure some of this information isn't what you thought about when it comes to basic business finances, but that's okay. We're shifting your perspective to be more inclusive, right? To have a much better understanding of full scope of how your finances Work with each other, personal and business. While you personally have a social security number and your own personal finances to maintain, your business has an EIN number, a DUNS number, and finances to maintain. They're like married entities. It's like a married couple almost, where what happens in one impacts the next. If the business isn't creating enough revenue, you may not be able to take advantage of certain things personally, financially, but also vice versa. We want to continue to educate ourselves. We want to continue to attend webinars like this to understand and get a taste of different perspectives. Every financial professional that you interact with, they're going to bring you information from their experiences and from what they've learned. I always say you don't want to do this work alone. Entrepreneurship is already a tough journey on its own. I say it's not for the faint at heart, but also creating a sustainable business, a sustainable enterprise, graduating to a mature level in business. It takes a team, a financial team to help make these things happen. And we're going to get into your financial dream team and what that looks like in part 2 of our session. But it's so important to have the right people in place. When it comes to asset protection, do you have an insurance agent? Do you have an attorney who can help you with these things? Because you can't do it alone. You end up capping yourself at what you know. And if this is what you know, but we're aiming towards here, we have to find people, put together that team that can help us fill in the blank. Understanding strategic banking relationships. What does that even mean? I have a bank account. So does that mean I have a strategic banking relationship? Not necessarily. It means that you have a financial institution that you can use. However, are we really utilizing them for what they're worth? Are we building relationships beyond the transactions? It's one thing to just be a client who makes deposits and withdrawals. Fine, everybody can do that. But are we having conversations with our banker? Do we have a banker? Personal banker, business banker, who gets to know you, understand what you bring to the table, understand what you're building. That's how you build sponsorship. That's how you create an advocate within that financial institution, somebody who can speak on your behalf. So when it is time to apply for that loan, we have somebody who knows us in our business who can go in and have conversations with the underwriter. I've seen it happen several times with clients who established very intentional banking relationships with me. We housed most of their products, checking and savings account, credit cards, merchant services, payroll. We house all of those things from an umbrella perspective. And even if your personal credit might not be as strong, because you have invested in building that intentional relationship, they give you a different level of care. I've had clients to get declined. And then because they had a relationship with me, I was able to pick up that phone and call that underwriter to advocate for them, to speak on their behalf. Because a lot of times as a client, you don't meet the underwriters. They're behind the screens. What they see is your name, the numbers associated with you, your social security, EIN number, et cetera, your credit report. And they make decisions off of that most of the time. But when you have a very intentional relationship with your banking institution, not only does that help benefit you internally in the banking system, but you also benefit externally. That banker can introduce you to organizations, programs that you can take advantage of as that owner of the business. When I was a banker, I had CDFI partners like MCE, where if my client couldn't necessarily get approved for that loan with the bank, hey, I can connect them to my partner. Because just because your bank says no doesn't mean that your need goes away. It just means that we need to find a different source to get what you need. I used to refer people often to chambers of commerce. local organizations whose missions are literally driven by supporting small businesses. We used to partner with Operation Hope, right? Providing financial literacy, coaching, counseling. But if you don't have that intentional banking relationship, you miss out on so many opportunities, so much information that's out there floating that can benefit you. But we got to do our work to create those relationships. We have to go in there and actually be willing to engage that teller in conversation. They want to introduce you to the banker or the branch manager. Make that introduction. Introduce yourself. Because another benefit that most people don't think about is that they become a part of your family. They also spend money in your business. They patronize you. Those are small benefits that we don't even think about can make a world of a difference. When it was lunchtime, you know who were some of the first restaurants that we would call or think about? Our clients who built relationships with us. When it was time for us to have a fun outing and we wanted matching gear, who do we think about? That client who had a relationship with us. Build those relationships. I promise you, they benefit you in more ways than what you can even count sometimes. As a CEO, are we being intentional about how we're going about accumulating our assets? Are we being intentional about accumulating assets versus liabilities? We all know how to accumulate liabilities, me too. We all know how to shop and buy things that are depreciating every day. As soon as you walk out of the store, that item depreciates. I mean, even when we think about inflation, our cash is really depreciating. The value is not the same. So are we using our finances properly, our credit properly, to accumulate assets that can create passive income for us, that can help us increase our net worth, both personally and in the business? I am a person who likes to spend my money on real estate. I appreciate being a real estate investor to where my tenants are helping me to increase my net worth because we're paying down that mortgage, which is increasing the equity, right? And I get some extra cash flow monthly with the extra income that's available. A big part of how I have survived as a full-time entrepreneur is through my real estate. While I'm building this business, I have that extra income over there through strategic asset accumulation that has helped me to make certain decisions over here that are beneficial to me. But we have to start expanding our mind beyond what we can see right now. You have to envision a much bigger future for yourself. Create goals for yourself so that we can change the trajectory of our families, so that we can create these sustainable businesses that we say, hey, 10, 15 years, the business has done well, I'm ready to sell it. So that that's even an option on the table. We've seen way too many businesses washed because of poor financial management, because they weren't thinking from a futuristic perspective. But you're investing in yourself through these workshops, through your relationship with MCE, and we are reciprocating that level of investment into you with information, with the how, with the access. Even when we think about asset accumulation, sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't have the money to do that right now. I believe in partnerships, especially if you have a tribe, a sister circle, or whatever you want to call it, a community of like-minded individuals who are looking to do some of the same things that you have an interest in. Have those types of conversations. We're quick to ask our friends to go out to brunch or to do fun activities, but let's have business conversations. Let's accumulate assets together as a community to really shift the trajectory of our community's wealth. Be intentional about how you go about increasing your network. Be intentional about how we can create multiple streams of revenue, personally and in your business. Another stream of revenue that I've created in the business to help me be able to do some of the things that I need to do, put my car on Turo. It's been beneficial. And that has really made my car a valuable asset. Everybody might not want to do the same things, and that's okay. Figure out what works for you. It could be a digital course. It could be a masterclass. It could be a book. It could be something that you produce one time and you continue to sell. But you at least have to think about it. You have to envision it. You have to understand how these pieces help you in business, how these pieces can get you from point A to point Z in your personal finances and also in your business finances. I promise you, really digesting the elements of class and being able to apply this learning to how you move in business, how you make personal financial decisions, it makes you a much sharper CEO. Even when we think about how to tap into sources of capital, yes, we have our banking institutions, we have our CDFIs, but also think about crowdfunding opportunities, building your business to a point where you can take advantage of angel investors and venture capitalists, where people want to invest in your business. But a big part of that is your financial success. They want to see those numbers. They want to see those numbers. And you want to have a solid understanding of your finances, both personally and in business, to be able to tell a story, to be able to sell yourself and to sell that business. Bootstrapping is only going to last us but for so long. We have to start planning for the future of our business beyond the next month or the next year. But in order to do that, we have to have these types of conversations. We have to gain access, come into contact with this type of information that will help stretch our thinking, that will help shift our perspective so that we can start moving differently. What is this saying that a lot of us grew up on? When you know better, you do better, right? As we continue to enhance our knowledge, as our subject area increase, we're able to think differently. We're able to move differently. We're able to make different decisions. A big part of business sustainability is making smart and intentional financial decisions, both personally and both in your business as that CEO. I want that for you. I want to see all of you in business thriving, being able to have a team, an executive team who helps to take care of your business while you're managing the development of other relationships of other business entities. But we have to start shifting our mindset to think like that so that we can start moving like that, so that we can get the results that we probably hadn't even dreamed of when we initially started that business. I like to tell people you got to see it to believe it. Start surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to be. If you're the smartest one in the room, change your room. A lot of us didn't grow up having finance conversations at the kitchen table. Let's change that dynamic. It's really one decision, literally one decision. But you have to feed your mind. I tell clients all the time, be intentional with what you consume. And consumption isn't just based on what you're eating. It's a big part of it, but it's also, what are you feeding your mind? What are you listening to? What are you reading? You want to become a much sharper CEO who makes solid financial decisions so that you can become that business leader where people are tapping on your shoulder to figure out how you did it. And we want to support you in that journey. MCE has an amazing team. Donna, Nick, Tanya, everybody who wants to see you financially successful. You got to want it for yourself. Thank you again, Donna, to the entire MCE team. Now we're going to open up the floor for any questions. Do not be shy. I promise I don't bite. But those tough questions that a lot of times you don't feel comfortable asking someone else. I'll check the chat to see if we had any questions there.
This is just wonderful. I'd love to open it up to any. Yes, I would love to open up anybody. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to just unmute yourself and speak it.
I saw someone say they get nervous, and that's okay. Listen, you are not the only one. Just like right now, somebody has a question, but you feel like you might be the only one with that question, so you don't want to answer. You don't want to ask, right? The one thing I want you to realize is that you're not alone in your journey, in your quest for different, for better. You're not alone. It's okay to be nervous. But I tell clients, do it anyway. Ask the questions anyway. Have the conversations anyway, because that's how you get better. We don't have any questions. I want to make sure that you guys have access to my contact information. The MCE team has it, but if you want to take a picture, if you want to jot it down, so that if you think of something outside of today's session, or if you say, hey, I want to, but I just don't know how, you don't have to do it by yourself. You can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook at Kingdom Vision Consult. You can go to our website at kingdomvisionconsult.com or shoot us an email, info@kingdomvisionconsult.com. And no question is a silly question.
Looks like we might have one. You have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I
Hi.
am Sharon. How are you doing?
Good.
I decided to come on today because I had a business couple years ago. I ran it for me and my husband ran it. We was home improvement business. We ran it for 8 years. And then finally, out of the clear blue, because of COVID and a couple of things, I was exhausted from it. And I wanted to do everything to be done with it. And I grew a lot running my business for that long time. I had quite a bit of hiccups, but quite a bit of success stories at the same time. But now I'm just giving some information. Now I decided to, for whatever reason, to open up another business. I am kind of excited about it, but kicking myself at the same time. So I'm just giving information here. So when I saw this, I had an accountant to run after 2 years because I couldn't keep up with the payroll, my employees. It just got overwhelming amount of stuff. So I needed some help. And sadly, my accountant, every time he called, made my stomach hurt. My heart would go to my stomach because those were hard questions to me. I don't know why they were hard. Like, they were just hard questions for me. Every time he called, I couldn't wait to get off the phone or something. You know what I mean? I just couldn't wait. But so now I want to do this differently with this business, this small business. I just want to go about it differently. Maybe I won't have so many I didn't have financial problems the last time, but maybe it just be a little bit more easier because now it's just me. So I appreciate this Zoom session because you brought out things where, you know, these are hard times and people do get nervous because some people act like there should be no reason to be nervous whatsoever about this. You should just be ready, take on the world. And I'm thinking, not really, I'm a little bit nervous. So I'm glad I'm here. Just
You're here.
out again.
We are glad that you're here.
We're glad you're here too.
So
investment that you made in yourself. And I want you to be able to give yourself also a pat on the back for showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times that's the hardest part, is showing up. We so easily sometimes show up for everybody else, but we don't always know how to show up for ourselves. And you made a very conscious decision today to show up for yourself. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you, because I was like, here we go again. And then I saw the session 2. I'm like, well, I gotta go for session 2. I don't have anything really to bring to the table. But yeah, I just wanted just to let you know, I appreciate this, appreciate the information you gave. It was a different spin on it, because sometimes it really has to do with our emotions. I have a really good credit score on a personal level. I'm very proud of that. So I know about financing enough, but still to this day, I still am nervous when we start talking about money and how I should spend it. I'm nervous right now and I don't even know why. There is no reason to be, and I'm nervous right now. But thank you so much. I just want to give you some feedback and say thank you very much for the session. It was different than what I expected. I thought it was going to be a hard close, pointing down, you need to do this, you need to learn this, you need to get this done, and then I'll be overwhelmed. But I'm glad that this first one was just about, to me, getting your emotions together, get out of your head and just try to work on little step at a time. And I got your information as well. So thank you very much.
I'm so glad. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We always love to get great feedback from our participants, because ultimately our goal is to serve you. You know, we are not benefiting you if you don't feel like you have walked away with something. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for feeling comfortable enough with your own voice and with your story to share, because I'm sure just like you have, you know, definitely encouraged and motivated me to keep going. I'm sure there's someone else who's out there listening who can appreciate just your testimony. Yes, you might not have that business that you previously started, but guess what? You have enough courage to say, hey, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do it differently this time. That takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. And a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit. I hope that you also feel good on the inside for these decisions that you are making that may be differently this time around. You deserve to have a safe space to have these conversations. That's what we need. That's a big part of, honestly, our financial issues, is not having a safe, comfortable space where we can be transparent and have authentic conversations. So thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. And we look forward to supporting you along this journey.
Thank you. Yeah, we got one more question, and I want to wrap things up, because I definitely want to be conscious of everybody's time. Is it smart to have your personal and business account with the same bank? And should we have both EIN and Dun & Bradstreet numbers?
Great question. Yes, you should both have the EIN and Dun & Bradstreet number. Absolutely. The EIN is on behalf of the IRS, right? So when you're filing your taxes, that EIN number is there. That's your employee identification number. Your D&B number, that DUNS number, that's really a big identifier for like your credit vendors. Let's just say you're applying for a business loan. Yes, they're going to look at any accounts that you have attached to your EIN number, but they also can pull up your DUNS profile to also view your history, your payment history in business, especially because there are a number of vendors who may report to DMB and don't necessarily report to on your EIN number when it comes to business credit. So great question. Yes, you want both. Is it smart to have your personal and business account with the same bank? Yes, it's such a very strategic move because to the bank, you are investing in them, right? That's what I call creating that reciprocal relationship, because we have a long list of needs for the bank of things that we want them to do for us. But of course, a part of a banking institution, their job is to grow their book of business. And a great way that banks do that is by creating what we call household relationships with an individual. So making sure that they have multiple products and service personally, but also if they have a business, we want those business products and services as well at that institution. So yes, and you'll find that it'll be much, much, much more helpful when it comes to applying for lending through that institution when they see that you have a deep relationship with them, both personally and for your business. Great question.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. This was so great. I really appreciate everybody's time. I'm going to remind folks that we have upcoming trainings. I even put the link to the second part of this training in the chat, so you could just very easily click on that link and just go ahead and register for that. It's free. We also have a Let's Talk Funding coming up next month, where we will talk about our own application process and walk you through it. And then in September, we're even going to be doing QuickBooks. So we're all about getting your financial house in order here. Thank you so much, Lindsay. You're always so wonderful, and we truly value your relationship with us and your friendship. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. And if you would like a copy of today's presentation, don't hesitate to email me and I'll make sure that you get it. And I'll stay around for another minute or so if you're writing down any of the resources in the chats. But thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Have an awesome rest of your evening, everyone. Make it a great day on purpose.
Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.